It takes more than installing blackout blinds in your office to turn on dark mode in real life to be a great software engineer. This is episode 341 of the Soft Skills Engineering Podcast. I'm your host, Jameson Dance.
I'm your host, Dave Smith.
And Soft Skills Engineering is your weekly advice show where we talk about non-technical stuff about the technical field of software development. I guess you could make blackout blinds technical if you wanted to automate them.
Yeah, little IoT.
Yeah, I've recently gotten into that, and it's just yak shaving all the way down. It's like there's no such thing as like automating something. You have to like build a system that allows you to configure the thing that can then debug the thing that you set up to configure the thing that then you can automate, which is fun. It's cool. I'm enjoying myself, but boy, is it not making my home any smarter yet.
That's funny.
I thought I waited long enough to get into it too.
I would have expected so at this point. It's been quite a number of years now.
Let me tell you, just barely, like 2023, the exciting announcement of one new standard to unify them all, to replace the existing like 15 standards for protocols for communication. Surely this will not be a 16th incompatible standard.
This time we got it right.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not what, well, I don't know. Yeah. Well, no, it's not what this show's about.
That's right.
That's too technical.
That's right.
We're here to talk about other stuff like our patrons.
Yes, I want to thank those patrons that are contributing at a level where they get a shout out every week. They are Andreas Reales, Connie Lee, Valentina Datafold, Santa Hopar, Noah Fraser Lowe, Kent C. Dodds, Jenny Kim, Owen Chartle, Craig Motlin, I Love Mavis, apologies. The Stochastic Parrot, Alice Jocelyn, Fuer, Pil, Go, Coshocton, Ohio, patreon.com.au, we're hiring, Ira Chan, Monkey Face Emoji, Jonathan King, testingisdocumenting.org, Ola Dapofadigi, Will Angel, Agnerer, Nick Hathaway, Travis Sanders, Braden Keynes, John Grant, Bartek Tutkowski, Cody Sale, Nick Cantor, and Philip John Basile. If you'd like to join this crew of names, emojis, and other unpronounceables, then all you have to do is go to softskills.audio and click support us on Patreon, where if you contribute a large sum of valuable currency, we will say your name, emoji, or unpronounceable of your choice on the show every week. And if you contribute any dollar amount, we'll invite you to our Slack community where you can chill with all the soft skillets.
That's a good collective noun. Pythonistas soft skillets.
It's good.
I like it.
The two finalists were murder and soft skillets. But murder's already in use by what is it, geese?
A murder of podcast listeners and a pan of soft skillets.
Crows. A murder of crows. Yeah. So because it was already taken, we chose not to use it.
Okay. Because we really liked it. Besides that.
That's the only reason we did.
Just rolls off the tongue. Yeah. Should I read our first question?
Yeah, go for it.
This is from an anonymous listener who says, I'm an American student finishing my undergraduate degree in computer science in the Midwest this semester. I'm concerned about the economic climate of the technology industry. I'm doing my second internship at a major technology company this summer, Microsoft. After that, I will go to graduate school and try to ride out the storm. I've applied nearly a dozen programs, including 1 year and 2 year master's programs, and even a few PhD programs. In parentheses, MIT, please accept me. My biggest concern is having my offer rescinded. I thought there might be economic turbulence, so last summer I had my return offer place me in the most profitable and highest growth division of the company. How do layoff decisions get made on the issue of rescinding offers versus laying off people? How can I reduce the risk of the offer getting pulled? I am working on finding another software engineering internship, but it's extremely difficult to find any open roles.
This is very interesting because 20 years ago, this month, I was doing the same thing.
You were trying to go to grad school because you were worried about the economic climate?
Yep, that's exactly right. I was like having a hard time getting calls back from companies. I applied to a few grad school programs, and they all reported the same thing to me, which is, we've had an unusually high number of applicants this year. I remember University of Virginia, I applied to their computer science master's degree program, and they told me they had something like 30 seats or 90 seats, something in that range, and like 900 applicants. I did not get that. I did not get one of those seats.
You were the 91st best candidate.
It's right on the edge.
So close.
Anyway.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand this. So this person is, they're worried about their internship offer being rescinded before they go off to grad school. Is that right?
Yes, as opposed to the grad school offer.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The listener
And
says,
this isn't like a full-time, like once you finish grad school, then you can come work here.
Yeah,
thing.
maybe. But what I read is I'm doing my second internship at a major technology company this summer, and mentions Microsoft. So
Mhm.
I think what's being asked here is, how do I make sure I get that internship this summer and don't get it rescinded? Because I'll be
Okay.
honest, there's a good chance these big tech companies are going to rescind internship offers this summer. I mean, we're in a climate now where the day we're recording this, Google announced that they're laying off 12,000 people. I don't remember hearing if Microsoft did layoffs, but I think they did. Amazon's laid off 18,000. Facebook's done layoffs. So, yeah, it would be weird to me if a company lays off that many people and then resumes their internship program at the same volume that they had done in previous years.
So you're saying it's not automatic that they would just cancel all internships, but certainly
I don't know, man.
A risk.
I would like to use the word unprecedented, but it's not. This is exactly the same thing that happened 20 years ago. And
it's different companies, and it feels like the companies, I mean, Google is more of a real company than pets.com.
That's true. But at the time, I remember that. So here's a couple I remember. I remember Microsoft 20 years ago, and I knew people who went to work for them. And I remember Intel hiring a bunch of software engineers and other engineers. And I remember hearing stories of Intel making offers to people for when they graduated in a few months' time, so maybe 4 or 5 months in advance, and then telling the people, hey, we're actually not going to hire you, and you can go ahead and keep your signing bonus, like 20 grand or something, and don't come into work at the start, after you graduate, because you don't have a job here. So that happened, and there's a chance it could happen here too, I think.
Random Googling has revealed the internet is not in agreement on whether internship offers will be rescinded.
The internet doesn't agree on everything? Weird.
I wonder if, well, first, I don't know. Like, I've been around an internship program at a big company, but I wasn't behind the scenes running it. And it was not in the unprecedented yet still precedented times of
the actually precedented
limited money. Yeah, the actually precedented times of less money. But I'm trying to think through like what the consequences of this would be. On the one hand, if you're not paying people who already work there anymore, it seems like it's kind of a no-brainer to also not pay people who don't work there yet.
Right. To also not start paying new people.
Yeah. But at the same time, I wonder if it's like, I mean, internships are time limited. Like
yes.
the cost is lower. It's not like they're taking on new headcount forever.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is that there's actually quite a bit of negative optics that happen if you cancel an internship program, especially since internships are, relative to full-time employees, very inexpensive. Typically there's no benefits package involved, the rates are lower, and like you said, they're time limited, which means you're not signing up to a recurring cost. It's a one-time fixed cost, which companies typically don't have to grimace as much when they think about taking that cost on. So I don't think these things are necessarily connected, but they are. I guess it's a question of to what degree they are connected.
I was thinking the same thing about the optics of like, if you take on interns and then don't hire them full time, that's, I don't know.
That's one thing.
Happen. Yeah, but if having interns come in and then leave at the end of their internship is sort of like investing in the hiring brand of your company for the future, where maybe you do want more people to work there. And I mean, I assume that they would still make some offers to interns. Maybe it'll just be a lot more competitive. Like they will filter out a lot harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Among the interns.
I think you're right. If I was running a company, which heaven forbid, and thank goodness I'm not, but if I were running a company and I had the option to do an intern, like I had to decide whether to resume an internship program, I would take a good hard look at the cost of the program and the benefits to the company, and I would think, fully canceling an internship program will have far-reaching effects. Like it will cause reputational damage, because some people will think, oh, Microsoft doesn't have an intern program, and they won't apply, because you might be surprised to learn that most of these companies are actually desperate to have people apply to their internship programs. They do get a lot of applicants, but they're not overwhelmed with applicants, and they do go to great efforts to convince people to actually apply. So anything that would damage
It's
that.
also like a prestige thing in a way. It's like with colleges where like sort of a mark of pride to say we had so many applicants because so many interns want to come work here.
Yeah,
It kind of is it's like self-sustaining after a while.
It is. And
That
so they would
validates
unravel
it a
some
little
of
bit.
that built up
Mhm.
prestige if they just cancel the program for one summer. So I would be very surprised if they cancel the intern program completely. Also, these companies do need to continue innovating and building, and a lot of these intern projects produce not a lot, but like, you know, they are kind of doing this moonshot
Let's
thing.
be honest.
Yeah, like
not very many.
Yeah, I mean, some number of intern program projects produce valuable business outcomes that these companies can leverage and make money on. So they don't want to completely discount that either. So, you know, is there a chance your internship offer will be rescinded? Yes. If I had to guess, I would say the chances are less than 20%. And this person has already done the number one thing to make sure that theirs doesn't get rescinded, which is trying to shoot for an internship position that is located within the company in a high profit, high revenue area or high growth area.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I wonder if you could reach out to them to confirm, or maybe they would see that as a sign of weakness. You lack faith that your internship will be there, so
you don't
you're not
bleed
worthy.
Microsoft yellow. What's their color? I don't know.
Microsoft red, blue. Yeah, what's the Windows logo? Isn't it red, blue?
Oh, it's red, green, yellowish, blue, and gray, according to Google. Yeah, you don't bleed Microsoft red, green, yellowish, blue, and gray if you have to ask us this question.
Yeah. Maybe it's just like Xbox green.
Yeah, there you go. But I actually, the reason I love this question is because it shows that the impermanence and circular nature of economies. And I'm going to wax a little philosophical here, but it makes me feel very, I don't know, it's a new feeling to be able to say, I've lived through this almost exact kind of downturn 20 years prior.
Yeah.
It's like the first time in my life where I've been able to really lean into the word whippersnapper. It feels good.
Back in my day, just kind of rolls off the tongue.
Oh, yeah. Constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. I came in during like the housing crisis.
Like
so
08, 09?
Parts of the economy were not doing great, but
not our part. Our part was
tech
fine.
was fine. Yeah. Tech was like, boy, it would suck to go through a downturn.
Yeah. I wonder what that would be like.
Yeah.
I remember I was pretty nervous, but I think right now I would be a lot more nervous at my stage in life.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I don't feel too bad about it. But I remember like it was a struggle. And I went from believing that I could make a certain amount of money right out of college as a software engineer to realizing that I was going to make 40% less than that at my first job. And also just having to come to terms with that. But, you know, the beauty of being young is I came to terms with it immediately. Like I didn't, it was no problem. It was just reality and I had no options. I didn't even think about alternative realities.
I will have 40% less disposable income.
No problem. What's for dinner? Move right on. Oh, man. What an interesting thing to see.
Well, have we answered the question? We kind of skipped the how do layoff decisions get made.
Oh, yeah.
Painfully in the dark.
Yes.
I don't know.
The room no one smiles coming out of after the decision is made. There will be anger.
Reduce the risk.
It's tough. But realistically, for a job seeker or a returning intern, how do they get made? At a company the size of Microsoft, it is, for me, impossible to predict what the heuristics are that guide their layoff decision-making, especially offer rescission decision-making for interns. You would like to believe that they do a holistic evaluation of every role and every team member's performance and everything, and then make a rational decision. But at the numbers we're talking about, there's no way. There's no way it happens that way. They will probably make decisions at the business unit level and say, we're going to invest 10% less in this business unit. Maybe it's Xbox, maybe it's Microsoft retail stores. I don't know. But there's probably not going to be any kind of like real serious hand-wringing about individual roles. It's just That's too much. The scale's too big for anyone to decide that.
One more thought I had is if last summer's most profitable and highest growth division is this summer's cost cutting target, like,
yeah, good point.
If it was very profitable and very high growth because of the frothy economic market, then maybe I would be a little more concerned. But if it's a bit more durable, then maybe you're okay. Yeah, I would talk to them, honestly. I would just reach out to them and say you're worried about it.
Yeah, I agree. I would do that because otherwise you're just going to sit there and worry. And now you can sit there and worry with an actual reason. Because they told you your offer's rescinded.
Go to grad school early.
Yeah, congrats.
Have we answered the question?
I think so. Good luck. I'm sorry that you're entering the industry at this time, but I can say from experience, it works out okay.
Yeah. Do you want to read our next question, Dave?
Yeah, this comes from a listener named Andre who says, I need a gut check here. I have a senior engineer on my team that does not perform well. He keeps procrastinating on tasks that I know wouldn't take much effort. I think it would be great for the team and the company to substitute this engineer for someone with more passion. One idea I have is to volunteer this person to my director to be laid off. It would be great for the engineer to feed on the potential 3-month severance package. At the same time, I feel like I wouldn't be doing my job if I just get rid of him instead of trying to work with him to perform better. Firing doesn't seem like an option because he does the bare minimum for his role. What would you do?
Interesting. So someone who's kind of borderline and you're wondering, do I offer him as tribute?
Yes.
Or sacrifice him to layoffs?
And then
you say you want to replace him.
Soothe your conscience by saying he'll get a great severance.
Yeah, the severance was good. If you do layoffs, usually you wouldn't replace those laid off positions. I mean, sometimes that happens, but it's always weird optics because when you do layoffs, usually you're talking about like business climate and like, we can't afford to keep these people here. Then if you go back and hire for a role you just laid off and everyone kind of raises an eyebrow and thinks, how true was that? Or were you just trying to get rid of people that you didn't want to work there anymore? So my point there is to say, if your intention is to say, let's lay this person off, also, can we hire someone to replace them? That's not typically how it works.
I would say that's not a layoff.
Yeah. That's definitely called firing someone.
Yeah, that's called firing and replacing and backfilling. I think, is it fair to say that layoffs by definition, you don't backfill?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, like you're trying to cut costs.
Mm-hmm.
Usually. Yeah, and usually you're trying to spend less money. And typically, I mean, severance is expensive. So you're like paying a lump sum to cut recurring costs, right. I guess.
That's right. And I can see why the concept of layoffs and performance-based termination can be conflated, because I think a lot of times you think, well, we have to save costs and we have to let some people go. Who do we choose? And, you know, a natural place to go is to try to evaluate people's performance and use that as to eliminate the lowest performing people. But if you're going to replace them with higher performing people, that's not a layoff.
Yeah. At the end, it says firing him doesn't seem like an option because he does the bare minimum for his role. At least in the US, it's always an option for better or for worse.
True.
There's with some exceptions, you can quit or be fired for without. Yeah, it's at will employment. Your company can just decide we don't want you to work here anymore. Yeah,
and when companies do that, though, they do expose themselves to certain legal risks that people will sue them for wrongful termination. And so even though the employment agreement and the law officially allows you to do that, it's not without its costs. And so most companies will go to great lengths to cover their butts when it comes to justifying the termination.
I feel like I'm going to sound heartless, so I need to recognize there are humans involved and there's pain involved in being fired, and that sucks. But also, it sounds like this person isn't a good fit for the job. Like they're not just barely doing the bare minimum is that feels like not someone you want on your team, and the average replacement developer might be more valuable or more helpful. And somewhat cynically, there are a lot of developers looking for a job right now. So your it's much more of an employer's market.
It is right now
because there's so many layoffs. So there could be a chance of like maybe it's easier than normal to find someone very talented because so many people are being laid off.
Yeah, that is true. So, but I want to latch on to those words. This person is doing the bare minimum for his role. So it sounds to me like you haven't, I mean, in one breath, you're saying this person is doing the bare minimum for the role, which means they're doing the role. So maybe the minimum isn't actually where you think it is, or maybe it's higher than you said. But on the other hand, you're saying they need to be fired because they're not performing. So, like, which is it? You know, and I think this is a case where it really behooves you as a manager to clearly articulate to each team member what are the minimum requirements to be considered for continued employment. You know?
Yeah, that's a good point, because if there's some kind of performance rating or performance management framework, it'll probably have a range of ratings from you're doing super great to you're doing poorly.
Yeah.
But you're doing poorly is usually below the minimum for the role. There's like the minimum to be acceptable in the role and the minimum to now that I'm saying this, it feels fuzzy and weird in my head when it's coming out of my mouth.
It felt better
it
inside
sort of makes
than
sense
outside.
in my head.
It was beautiful on the inside.
Yeah, like me. It's it almost feels like there's two standards. There's like the minimum to be doing a good job, and then there's which if someone was doing at the very minimum of that, you'd be like, yeah, I'm glad they're on my team. And then there's the minimum to I don't know, to not
be fired.
How do I put this? Yeah, but I would argue that if they're below the minimum to do a good job, those feel like different levels, and you might be looking for a clarity that is not there. Like you might be looking for something so egregiously bad that it is unlikely to happen. But if they just kind of do a pretty cruddy job for a long time, that might not be good enough as well. I think I'm saying, you know what? As usual, I'm saying what you say, but with more words and less clarity.
Oh, okay.
That's what I've decided.
Good. It's a good thing your words sound so good. It's just very pleasant.
And maybe if you don't understand the language, then you're like, the cadence sounds okay.
No,
as long as you're not paying attention to the content.
Good tempo, good inflections. It's good. Therefore, good advice.
Therefore it is correct. At the very least, it does sound like you need to have a conversation with this person saying that you expect them to do more.
I agree.
And maybe that leads them to doing more.
Right. You have to give them a chance. And remember that an important part of your job is communicating to your team members when their performance levels, especially when they're underperforming. The sooner you can share, the better. And this doesn't have to be a sit down like, oh, guess what? You are underperforming. It can be as simple as saying, this deliverable did not meet our expectations for your level and experience. You know, and it's just like, state the facts. Tell them how you want it to be better. And if you don't ever do that, and then you decide to fire them, boy, you really have failed as a manager, in my opinion. And just this happens so often. In fact, I might even venture to say this is the number one failure of people in people management roles, is not sharing concrete feedback soon enough. And it becomes too late, and then they find themselves in this awkward situation where they need to terminate someone, but they haven't told them, and it's a big surprise.
Yeah. And then you're in this, I speak from experience, you are in this dilemma of like, the business needs this person to not work here anymore.
Yep.
But I have not given them a fair chance to improve. But also, like, one of those things pays my bills and one of them makes me sleep at night. And I can always go to sleep on this pile of money.
I'll just take it from my experience. Sleeping on a mattress stuffed with $100 bills is not as comfortable as it sounds.
It probably smells atrocious.
It's bad.
Yeah. Talking about this stuff is tough because yeah, I feel very ruthless. I feel like I want to do the right thing, and the right thing is fuzzy and ill-defined, and for who and in what capacity.
And also hard and painful
it's
to
tough
do.
stuff. Yeah.
Right? And that's like, for me, it's maybe the number one thing. It's like, it's no fun telling someone they didn't meet your expectations. You know?
It is always more fun to say nothing until
Yes.
the time when you have to say, sorry, we have to let you go. And
Yeah.
you haven't talked to them about it before. Well, we've talked about a bunch of stuff. What would you do? So I guess what we would do is talk to this person about their performance.
Yep. But this isn't a layoff situation. You have an underperforming team member that you want to replace, not a layoff. You can let them go. You can give them a generous severance package. Just don't call it a layoff, because it's not. It's not the end of the world if you do call it a layoff. Like, we're not going to call the police. I mean, Jameson might, but I'm not going to. But don't call it a layoff if you plan to backfill them, and get on a performance plan right away with this person so they understand where they are and what the risks are if they continue down the path they're on. Some people surprise you and will just turn it around and be amazing. It sounds like in this case that might actually be this person because they had some potential, they have some good skill. And some people just might not be able to. But in either case, as a manager, it's your number one priority to clearly articulate to them how well they're performing or not performing at the moment. So that's what I would say to you. And regardless of whether it's a layoff, you can negotiate a good severance. And I think that's probably the last point I want to make about this, is that severance and layoffs are orthogonal concepts that sometimes go together but don't have to. You know, companies can lay people off with no severance. They can also lay people off with severance. You can also terminate someone for low performance with severance, and you can terminate someone with low performance without severance. So I think I covered the whole truth table there, but it's it's 2 bits, 1 and a 0.
Yeah.
And all 4 combinations are
the United
valid.
States truth. United States and the parts of space that we're familiar with.
Right. Yes.
Truth table, but
That's
very
right.
different rules in Europe and other countries as well.
That's right. That's right. So, and that's something to be treated with care. And I honestly don't really know in Europe or other countries if the layoff distinction is the same.
Yeah.
I hope for my sake that it is. So I don't look stupid.
What does that mean? It sounds potentially dire.
I just didn't want to sound dumb.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, because I got to go do
dire.
it a bunch of times. So folks that live in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
okay. That is also dire. It's sounding dumb.
Yep. All right, that's all I got. I got nothing. Nothing else.
Yeah, don't undersell yourself. That was a nothing. That was great advice, Dave.
All right.
Thank you for allowing me to listen to it.
You enjoyed the
repeat it
tempo
poorly.
and the timbre.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what it meant. I enjoyed the meaning I got from it.
Great. That's what
What
I'm
can
here
people
for.
do if they want their own advice?
Go to softskills.audio and click the Ask a Question button where you can fill out our form. Thank you so much to everyone who does that. We love you. Keep those questions flowing. They are the life of the show.
Thank you so much. We will catch you next week.